I stared at my boss across the glass conference table as he jabbed his finger at the printed calendar report. "Your schedule shows unauthorized meetings with outside organizations," he screamed, spit flying from his lips. "Corporate policy violation. Security will escort you out immediately." I opened my mouth to explain. Those outside organizations were actually our 15 largest clients, worth $590 million annually, who had just signed retention agreements specifying me as their dedicated account executive. But he was already calling security. 8 hours later, my phone would not stop ringing. The security guard waited by the door while I packed my desk into a cardboard box. 23 minutes to collect 6 years of my life. But to understand how I got here, I need to take you back 3 months earlier, to when everything still made sense. The relationship builder who could turn skeptical prospects into loyal partners. My routine never varied. I woke at 5:30 every morning, hit the gym by 6, and arrived at the office by 7, a full hour before anyone else. I used that quiet time to review market updates, prepare for client calls, and strategize for the day ahead. My clients trusted me implicitly, because I never promised what I could not deliver, and I always delivered more than I promised. 6 months before that terrible Tuesday, I began the most ambitious project of my career. 15 of our top-tier clients, managing a combined portfolio worth $590 million in annual revenue, were approaching the end of their standard service agreements. These were not ordinary clients. They were hedge fund managers, private equity principals, and family office directors who had seen every pitch and resisted every sales tactic. Previous account executives had tried and failed to secure long-term commitments from them. I took a different approach. Instead of pushing for contract renewals, I listened. Over hundreds of hours spanning 6 months, I took these clients to dinner at restaurants they chose. I played golf at courses they preferred, even though I am terrible at golf and spent most of the time in sand traps. I attended strategy sessions where they discussed their actual concerns, not the sanitized versions they shared in formal meetings. I answered calls at 11 at night when market volatility kept them awake. Slowly, trust built. Not the professional courtesy kind of trust, but genuine relationship trust. They introduced me to their families. They asked my opinion on decisions that had nothing to do with Hartwell. They treated me like a valued advisor, not a vendor. The breakthrough came 4 months into this process. I was having dinner with Douglas Pemberton, CEO of Pemberton Capital, who managed $300 million through our firm. He was frustrated with the impersonal nature of financial services, the constant rotation of account executives, the feeling that he was just a number on a revenue report. I had an idea. What if we structured retention agreements differently? Instead of standard contracts that bound clients to the firm, what if we created agreements that guaranteed specific service standards, including naming a dedicated account executive who would be their primary contact? The clients would have stability, accountability, and a face they knew and trusted. The firm would have long-term revenue security and deeper client relationships. Douglas loved it. Within a week, he connected me with the other 14 clients in his network. They all faced similar frustrations. Over the next 2 months, I negotiated 15 retention agreements, each meticulously crafted to protect both client interests and company revenue. The key clause, the one that would change everything, specified that I would be their named account executive, written directly into the contract. If I left the company, the clients had the option to follow or stay, their choice. I thought I was being thorough. I thought I was protecting everyone involved. I had no idea I was building my own escape route. The combined value of these 15 contracts was staggering, $590 million annually with a 30% profit margin. This was the biggest deal in Hartwell's 50-year history. When I submitted the contracts through proper channels, the initial response was euphoric. The CEO, Amanda Winters, scheduled a company-wide celebration. My colleagues congratulated me. For about 48 hours, I felt like I had finally proven my worth. Then Gregory Thornton entered the picture. Gregory was 52 years old, recently promoted to Chief Financial Officer after transferring from our Chicago office 6 months earlier. He was a numbers guy with zero client-facing experience, the kind of executive who understood spreadsheets but not people. From the moment he arrived, something felt off about him. He started questioning my calendar entries 2 months before the firing. Why so many external lunches? Why so many off-site meetings? I explained patiently that client relationship building was standard practice in our industry. You cannot manage $500 million in assets through email alone. But Gregory grew increasingly controlling. He demanded pre-approval for all my meetings. He started copying himself on every email I sent. He would appear at my desk with printouts of my schedule, highlighting every external appointment in yellow marker, asking me to justify each one. At first, I thought he was just overly cautious, maybe inexperienced with client services. But then I noticed something more disturbing. In executive meetings, Gregory began presenting my client strategies as his own ideas. The retention agreement concept I had developed? He told the board it was his suggestion to implement relationship-based contracts. The breakthrough with Douglas Pemberton? Gregory claimed he had personally advised me on that approach. My colleague Sarah, who had worked at Hartwell for 12 years, pulled me aside one afternoon. Her voice was low, concerned. He did the same thing in Chicago, she whispered. 3 people quit because of him. He steals credit, builds cases against good employees, and positions himself as the savior. Be careful, Mabel. I should have listened more carefully. 2 weeks before my firing, I finalized all 15 retention agreements. Each contract was signed, notarized, and ready for legal review before executive approval. This was standard procedure. I submitted the complete package to Gregory as my direct supervisor, who was supposed to review and forward them to our legal department. That same week, the CEO praised the deals in a company-wide email. Congratulations to our client relations team for securing our largest contracts in company history. Amanda scheduled a formal announcement for the following month. Everything seemed perfect. What I did not know was that Gregory never forwarded the contracts to legal. Instead, he printed out my calendar for the previous 6 months. He highlighted every single client meeting in red ink. Next to each entry, he added handwritten notes: unauthorized external contact, policy violation, concerning pattern, possible corporate espionage. He was building a case against me while planning to take credit for the work I had done. Now, standing in that conference room with security waiting to escort me out, the full picture crystallized in my mind. Gregory had engineered my termination to eliminate the one person who knew the truth about those contracts. He would present the deals as his own triumph, minus the problematic detail that clients had specifically requested me as their account executive. The walk through the office was humiliating. 23 minutes from conference room to parking garage, carrying a cardboard box with 6 years of my professional life reduced to a few personal items. Colleagues stared. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away, uncomfortable. A few seemed satisfied, as if they had always known I would eventually fail. I reached my car and sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking so badly I could not fit the key into the ignition. My phone, which I had silenced during the termination meeting, showed 37 missed calls. The screen kept lighting up with new notifications. Calls, texts, voicemails, all coming in faster than I could process. Then realization hit me like cold water. Gregory never processed the retention contracts. The ones that specified me as the named account executive. The ones that gave clients the legal right to follow me if I left the company. He thought he had eliminated a witness. What he actually did was release me from the only thing tying me to Hartwell, my employment agreement. My phone rang again. Douglas Pemberton, my largest client, $300 million under management. I answered with a shaking voice. Mabel, Douglas said, his tone tight with controlled anger. I just received a call from some junior associate at your firm telling me you no longer work there. He informed me, very condescendingly, that he would be taking over my account. His voice dropped lower. I told him to read Section 7 of our retention agreement, the one that specifically names you as our dedicated account executive, the one with a termination clause if you are removed from our account without cause. I pulled over to the side of the road, unable to drive and process this conversation simultaneously. Douglas, I started. They fired me this morning, accused me of unauthorized client meetings. I was escorted out by security. The silence on the other end lasted 3 full seconds. Then Douglas exploded. Those meetings were authorized by me, by us, your clients. What kind of incompetent management fires someone for doing exactly what we contracted them to do? He took a breath. Mabel, I am calling our legal team right now. Hartwell has 72 hours to reinstate you with a formal apology, or Pemberton Capital withdraws every single dollar, all $300 million. I sat in stunned silence as Douglas hung up. Before I could process what had just happened, my phone rang again. Patricia Huang, from Huang Family Office, then James Whitmore from Whitmore Equity, then Elena Rodriguez from Rodriguez Holdings. One after another, all 15 clients called within 2 hours, each one angrier than the last, each one delivering the same ultimatum: reinstate Mabel or we walk, Patricia said. This is exactly why we insisted on that retention clause. We do not trust companies. We trust people, James said. We do not do business with organizations that fire their best employees to cover up management incompetence, Elena said. I spent 6 months building trust with you, Mabel. Not with Hartwell, not with some corporate entity, with you, personally. That trust does not transfer to whoever they assign next. As I sat in my car listening to call after call, something shifted inside me. For 6 years, I had been grateful to have my job, grateful that Hartwell took a chance on me, grateful for opportunities to prove myself. I had operated from a mindset of scarcity, always worried that one mistake would cost me everything. But these calls revealed a truth I had been too modest to see. My clients were not loyal to Hartwell. They were loyal to me. The relationships I had built, the trust I had earned, the value I provided belonged to me, not to the company that employed me. Gregory had tried to steal credit for my work, but he could not steal what actually mattered. I did not need Hartwell. They needed me, and they had just made the most catastrophic miscalculation of their corporate existence. By the time I made it home to my apartment, my phone had registered 43 calls and 67 emails. I poured a glass of wine with hands that had finally stopped shaking and started reading through the messages. Douglas had sent a follow-up text, called Amanda Winters directly, told her she has until end of business Wednesday to fix this or I am gone. Other clients doing the same. Stand firm, Mabel, you hold all the cards here. Sarah texted, everyone knows Gregory messed up. They are in full panic mode. He is locked in Amanda's office. People are talking about emergency board meeting, then messages from headhunters who had somehow already heard the news. Interested in discussing opportunities? Your reputation in the industry speaks for itself. Let's talk about starting fresh. Most surprising were the texts from the clients themselves, not just about business, but personal messages of support. Patricia Huang, whatever happens, I want you to know that you changed how our family thinks about financial partnerships. You treated us like people, not accounts. That is rare and valuable. James Whitmore. I have been in this industry for 30 years. I have seen a lot of talented people crushed by corporate politics. Do not let them crush you. You are better than they deserve. Elena Rodriguez. My grandmother used to say that sometimes the universe removes you from situations not as punishment, but as protection. Maybe this is your protection, Mabel. Maybe something better is coming. I sat on my couch, laptop open, wine glass in hand, and let myself imagine for the first time what something better might look like. What if I did not need Hartwell to rebuild? What if the relationships I had cultivated, the trust I had earned, the expertise I had developed were enough on their own? The question was both terrifying and exhilarating. Meanwhile, 15 blocks away at Hartwell headquarters, Gregory was discovering that stealing credit for someone else's work only works if that person quietly disappears. According to Sarah, who texted me updates throughout the evening, Gregory had returned to his office after my termination feeling triumphant. He planned to present my retention agreements as his own strategic vision at Thursday's board meeting. He had rehearsed his presentation, prepared slides, and even practiced his modest acceptance of praise for saving the company's largest accounts. Then his assistant interrupted. "Sir, Douglas Pemberton is holding on line 1. He sounds upset." Before Gregory could take that call, the assistant added, "Patricia Huang is on line 2, also upset, and James Whitmore on line 3, also very upset." Within 60 minutes, all 15 clients had called, not to congratulate him, to deliver ultimatums. Sarah described the scene. Gregory's face went from confident to confused, to pale to gray. He kept saying, "But I secured those contracts. I negotiated those terms." The clients must understand that Hartwell Financial Services provides continuity regardless of individual employees. Except the clients did not understand that at all, because it was not true. I had negotiated those contracts. I had built those relationships, and the contracts explicitly stated that clients had the right to designate their preferred account executive. Gregory called Amanda Winters in a panic. "We have a situation," he told her. "Multiple clients are threatening to leave over the Mabel Carson termination." Amanda, according to Sarah's sources, responded with the kind of cold fury that comes from realizing you have been lied to. "What do you mean they want her back? You told me she was violating company policy. You told me she was meeting with outside organizations without authorization." "Those outside organizations are our clients," Gregory stammered. "But she was not following proper approval protocols for her calendar." "Her job is to meet with clients," Amanda said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Meeting with clients is not a policy violation. It is her job description." "What protocols are you talking about?" Gregory could not answer because there were no protocols. He had invented the violation to justify the termination. "Get her back here," Amanda ordered. "Immediately. I do not care what it takes. We are about to lose $600 million because you fired our best relationship manager for doing her job." "But we cannot just rehire her," Gregory protested. "It makes us look weak. It undermines management authority." Amanda's response was reportedly swift and brutal. "We are about to look worse than weak. We are about to look incompetent, vindictive, and stupid. Fix this, Gregory." Today, my phone rang at 8:15 that evening. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. "Mabel, this is Amanda Winters. I know today has been difficult and confusing. I need you to know that there has been a serious misunderstanding. We would like to discuss your immediate reinstatement. Can you meet me for breakfast tomorrow morning, 7:30 at the Whitmore Hotel?" Her voice was carefully controlled, professional, with an undercurrent of desperation she was trying to hide. I recognized that tone. I had used it myself when trying to salvage client relationships that had gone wrong. "I will be there," I said simply. No emotion, no anger, no relief, just acknowledgement. After hanging up, I sat in silence for 10 minutes. Less than 12 hours ago, I had been fired and humiliated. Now the CEO was personally calling to beg for a breakfast meeting. The power dynamic had completely inverted. Sarah texted again. "You should know that Amanda spent the last 2 hours reviewing those retention contracts. She also started pulling files on Gregory's performance. Something is happening beyond just your firing. Be careful tomorrow." I spent that night unable to sleep, my mind racing through scenarios. What would Amanda offer? What should I demand? Did I even want to go back to a company that had treated me this way? But deeper than those questions was something else, something that felt like a door opening inside my chest. For the first time in my career, I was negotiating from a position of strength rather than gratitude. I was not asking for a job. They were asking me to save them from the consequences of their own terrible judgment. That realization changed everything. I selected my outfit carefully the next morning. Navy power suit, heels that added 3 inches to my height, minimal jewelry, professional armor. I arrived at the Whitmore Hotel at exactly 7:30, not a minute early, not a minute late. Amanda was already waiting in a private dining room, looking exhausted. Her usually perfect hair was slightly disheveled. Her makeup could not quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. She had clearly not slept either. "Mabel," she began, as soon as I sat down, "I am going to be direct, because we do not have time for corporate dancing. We made a mistake yesterday. Gregory acted without proper authorization or understanding of your client relationships. We want you back. Immediately. VP position restored, 20% raise, and a formal apology." I said nothing. Just listened. Let her keep talking. Amanda continued. "After you left yesterday, I reviewed those retention agreements you negotiated. All 15 of them." She paused, shook her head slightly. "They are brilliant, Mabel. Truly brilliant. They protect both the client and the company. They demonstrate exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. But Gregory never submitted them to legal for final approval. He was sitting on them." "Why?" I asked quietly. Amanda's expression tightened. "That is what I spent last night trying to understand." She pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. "These are the Q2 financials for your client accounts. The real numbers. And these are the numbers Gregory reported to the board." I looked at the 2 sets of documents. The discrepancy was massive. Gregory had inflated performance metrics by 32% across the board. My client's actual performance was excellent, solidly profitable, exactly what we had projected. But Gregory had reported numbers that made his management look transformational. "He has been falsifying reports for 4 months, Amanda said flatly, making himself look like a genius financial strategist. "When you closed those retention deals, you became a threat. You talked to clients directly. You knew the real numbers. You would have eventually noticed the discrepancies. He needed you gone before anyone connected the dots." The room felt very still. Amanda was not just offering me my job back. She was confessing to a much larger problem. "Come back," Amanda said. "Name your terms. We will terminate Gregory immediately, launch a full investigation. You can have his position if you want it. CFO. 300,000 base salary plus performance bonuses. Full executive benefits. 6 hours ago, I thought my career was over. Now I was being offered my boss job, triple my previous salary, and vindication that my firing was not just wrong but criminally motivated. But something gnawed at me, something that made accepting feel wrong despite the apparent victory. "Amanda," I said carefully, "why did you promote Gregory in the first place?" She blinked, surprised by the question. He had excellent credentials, strong performance history in Chicago. The board approved his hire unanimously. "Why did you believe him over me?" "We did not," she started, then stopped. Her shoulders sagged slightly. "We trusted his track record. When he raised concerns about your calendar, about possible conflicts of interest, we thought he was being cautious, protective of company interests. You thought I might be getting poached by competitors," I said. "You thought those client meetings were job interviews." Amanda nodded slowly. "We made assumptions. We were wrong." "You were willing to destroy my reputation based on assumptions," I said, my voice steady but hard. "I gave this company 6 years. I built relationships that generated hundreds of millions in revenue, and one man's lies erased all of that in one morning. You did not even ask me to explain before you fired me. Amanda looked down at her hands. You are right. We failed you. Completely. Which is why I am here trying to make this right. My phone buzzed. Text from Douglas. Just got call from Hartwell Legal trying to enforce some non-compete clause on you. My lawyers say your retention contracts supersede any non-compete. You are free to work wherever you want. My offer stands. Start your own firm. I will be your first client. $300 million guaranteed contract, 5 years. I looked at the text for a long moment, then back at Amanda. I need 24 hours to think about your offer. Mabel, please, Amanda said, leaning forward. We need you. The company needs you. Those clients will not work with anyone else. Exactly, I said softly. They will not work with anyone else, which means I do not need you. You need me. And you just spent 6 years teaching me that loyalty to a company is worthless when that company will not protect you. I stood up, placed a $20 bill on the table for my untouched coffee. 24 hours, I repeated. Then I walked out. 3 more texts came in during my drive home. Patricia, James, and Elena, all saying the same thing. Whatever you decide, we are with you. If you go back to Hartwell, we stay. If you leave, we follow. Your choice, Mabel, not theirs, yours. For the first time in 6 years, the choice really was mine, and that changed everything. I spent Wednesday afternoon sitting in my apartment, staring at my laptop screen, trying to make a decision that would define the rest of my career. On one side, security, familiarity, vindication, and a substantial promotion. On the other, the unknown, risk, independence, and the chance to build something entirely my own. My phone rang constantly. More clients calling to express support. More headhunters pitching opportunities. More former colleagues texting to say they hoped I would come back. But one call stood out. Jessica Martinez, my college roommate who had become a corporate attorney at one of Denver's top law firms. Forward me everything, she said after I explained the situation. The termination letter, those retention contracts, any emails from Gregory, everything. This smells wrong, Mabel. Companies do not panic this fast unless they know they did something legally indefensible. I sent her the files and tried to focus on other things, but my mind kept circling back to the same question. What did I actually want? Not what was safe, or smart, or impressive. What did I truly want? The answer surprised me. I wanted to prove that relationships mattered more than corporate structures. I wanted to show that trust built with integrity could sustain a business better than contracts enforced through legal threats. I wanted to stop being grateful for being allowed to do excellent work and start owning the value I created. But before I could make that decision, the situation escalated in ways I never anticipated. Thursday morning, a courier delivered a certified letter. Hartwell Financial Services Legal Department. My hands shook as I opened it. Cease and desist. I was prohibited from contacting any Hartwell clients. Violation of non-compete agreement, theft of trade secrets, attempted client poaching, interference with contractual relationships. They threatened lawsuits for damages, injunctions, even criminal charges for corporate espionage. I read it twice, then a third time, my initial fear transforming into pure rage. They fired me. Clients chose to contact me. I had not reached out to a single one. And now they were threatening criminal charges? I called Jessica immediately. This is garbage intimidation, she said after I read her the letter. Your retention contracts were negotiated in good faith, approved by management, and explicitly state that clients have the right to designate their preferred account executive, which supersedes any standard non-compete. Plus, they terminated you, which voids your non-compete anyway. They cannot fire you and then claim you are violating employment terms you no longer have. So I can ignore this? Forward it to me, Jessica said. Let me make some calls. This is about to get very interesting. By Thursday afternoon, all 15 clients had received similar letters from Hartwell Legal. The firm was demanding they honor their contracts, threatening breach of contract lawsuits if they withdrew assets, claiming that the retention agreements I had negotiated were not properly executed and therefore not binding. The clients were not intimidated. They were furious. Douglas called me, voice shaking with anger. They are threatening to sue me for choosing who manages my money, for enforcing a contract they wrote and signed. His tone shifted to cold determination. I have had my entire legal team review everything. Those retention agreements give us explicit right to designate our account executive. If that person leaves the company, we can follow or stay. Our choice. That language is crystal clear. Hartwell is bluffing. Patricia called next. I am moving all assets out today. Not threatening, actually doing it. $220 million. Wire transfers initiated. Let them sue me. I have been dealing with corporate bullies my entire career. They do not scare me. By Thursday evening, 12 of the 15 clients had initiated withdrawal processes. Not just threatening, actually moving money. The combined asset withdrawal totaled $470 million, and it was happening in real time. Sarah texted, "They are losing their minds." Gregory locked in conference room with legal team. Amanda on phone with board members. Rumor is emergency meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. Stock price already dropping on market rumors. Friday morning, Jessica called me before I even finished my first coffee. You need to sit down for this, she said. Her voice had that careful control lawyers use when delivering shocking news. I sat. Hartwell filed their lawsuit against you and 3 of your clients Thursday evening. Standard procedure means they had to provide discovery documents. My firm filed countermotions immediately, and because they are claiming you violated fiduciary duty and stole trade secrets, we got access to Gregory's financial records for the same period. And? I prompted. Mabel. He was not just falsifying performance reports. He was embezzling. She paused. We found evidence of $2.3 million stolen over 18 months, skimming fees through shell companies, redirecting client payments to accounts he controlled, billing for services never performed. I could not breathe, could not speak. The room spun slightly. Jessica continued. It gets worse. My contacts in Chicago did some digging. He did the same thing there. That is why he was transferred to your office. The company covered it up to avoid scandal, moved him quietly, thought a change of scenery would solve the problem. They knew he was dirty, Mabel. They put him in charge of your department anyway. This is not just about my wrongful termination anymore, I said slowly. No, Jessica agreed. This is criminal conspiracy. Hartwell knew Gregory was problematic and gave him authority anyway. Then they let him fire you to cover up his crimes. This is going to explode. How long until this becomes public? Jessica laughed, a bitter sound. It already is. Someone leaked the lawsuit and the discovery documents to the Financial Times. Their legal reporter published it 20 minutes ago. I pulled up the Financial Times website on my laptop. The headline hit me like a physical blow. Hartwell Financial faces mass client exodus amid fraud allegations. Whistleblower fired for uncovering CFO embezzlement scheme. The article painted me as the wrongfully terminated whistleblower who had discovered Gregory's fraud and was fired to silence her. It detailed the retention contracts, the client rebellion, and the preliminary evidence of embezzlement. It named Gregory specifically and quoted anonymous sources about his history in Chicago. My phone exploded. Reporters calling for comments. Former colleagues reaching out. Industry contacts expressing shock and support. The story was spreading across LinkedIn, Twitter, financial industry blogs. Within 2 hours, I was trending. The woman who took $600 million with her. She built relationships that survived corporate betrayal. This is why loyalty to people matters more than loyalty to companies. But also criticism. She destroyed a company over a misunderstanding. Hundreds of employees will lose jobs because of her ego. Is personal vindication worth institutional collapse? That last comment cut deep. I had not set out to destroy Hartwell. I just refused to quietly disappear to protect people who had wronged me. But the consequences were spreading far beyond Gregory and Amanda. Sarah called, bypassing text. Do not blame yourself. Her voice was firm. You did not create this situation. Gregory did. The company did when they protected him. You were just the one brave enough not to take it quietly. The rest of us have been covering for bad management for years. Maybe this is what needs to happen. By Friday afternoon, Hartwell's stock had dropped 18%. Trading was halted pending investigation. Amanda released a statement. We are conducting an internal review of recent allegations and remain committed to our clients and employees. But the damage was catastrophic, and it was about to get worse. Because while Hartwell scrambled to control the narrative, my clients were making decisions that would seal the company's fate. The weekend felt surreal. I watched from my apartment as my professional life became national news. Financial news networks discussed the case. Business school professors debated it on LinkedIn. Industry analysts predicted Hartwell's collapse. Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. A courier with another delivery, but this time the envelope was from Jessica's law firm. Inside was a motion to dismiss Hartwell's lawsuit, along with a countersuit for wrongful termination, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Jessica had not asked my permission. She simply filed it. She called minutes later. They threatened you with criminal charges, Mabel. That crosses a line. We are going on offense. The countersuit included everything. Gregory's falsified reports, the embezzlement evidence, testimony from all 15 clients about my professional conduct, and documentation of how Hartwell had protected Gregory, despite knowing his history. It was 37 pages of corporate malfeasance laid bare. Jessica had also filed motions on behalf of the 3 clients Hartwell was suing. We are arguing that retention agreements with client-designated account executives are standard industry practice and legally enforceable. If Hartwell wins this, it sets a precedent that companies own client relationships, regardless of individual performance or client preference. No judge will support that. By Monday morning, all 15 clients had joined together to file a joint motion. They were not just defending themselves. They were arguing that Hartwell's actions constituted fraud by inducement. The company had promised dedicated, personalized service through retention agreements, then fired the person providing that service and claimed the contracts were invalid. Classic bait and switch. Tyler Brooks, my senior analyst, called Monday morning. His voice was tight with emotion. Mabel, I quit. So did Rachel, Marcus, and Jennifer. We all submitted resignations effective immediately. We cannot work for a company that treats people like you this way. Over the next 4 hours, 8 employees from my former team quit, all citing Gregory's fraud and the company's complicity, all expressing loyalty not to Hartwell, but to me personally. Tyler continued. We know you probably cannot hire us right now. We do not care. We would rather be unemployed than work for people with no integrity. When you are ready to build something new, we will be there. I was crying by the time he hung up, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that I had built something more valuable than I ever understood. Not just client relationships, a team that valued trust and integrity over paychecks and job security. Sarah texted. Client services department is decimated. They cannot service remaining accounts even if they wanted to stay. This is checkmate, Mabel. Amanda called again. Her voice was desperate now, stripped of professional polish. Please, she begged, stop this. Tell your clients to pause their withdrawals. Tell your team to come back. We will meet any terms you want. Any terms. Just stop this. I am not doing anything, I said calmly. They are making their own choices. Just like I made mine when you fired me. You are destroying us. No, Amanda. You destroyed yourselves. You chose a liar over your best performer. You fired me to protect his crimes. You threatened me with legal action for having relationships you benefited from for 6 years. I did not create this situation. I am just refusing to fix it for you. There was a long silence. Then Amanda whispered, "What do you want?" I want you to understand that this could have been avoided. Every single consequence you are facing right now is the direct result of choosing comfort over truth, ego over competence, and institutional protection over personal integrity. I do not want anything from you, Amanda. I just want you to finally understand what you did. I hung up. My phone rang again immediately. Douglas Pemberton. Mabel. All 15 of us just had a conference call. We have a proposition. We want you to start your own firm. Independent wealth management, structured however you want. We will be your founding clients. Guaranteed contracts, minimum 5 years, combined assets of $590 million. I sat down slowly. That was not just an offer. That was a fully funded startup being handed to me on a silver platter. Douglas continued, "You built these relationships. You should own them, not have them held hostage by companies that do not value you. We trust you, Mabel, not your employer, you." "I need time to think," I said. "Take 48 hours, Douglas replied. "But know this, with or without you, we are leaving Hartwell. The only question is whether we get to continue working with the person we trust, or whether we have to start over with someone else. We would rather wait for you." After he hung up, I stood at my apartment window, looking out at the city. 7 days ago, I was fired and humiliated. Today, I was being offered the chance to build my own company, fully funded, with clients who had proven their loyalty. It should have been an easy decision. It was not, because starting my own firm meant accepting that Hartwell would likely collapse. Hundreds of employees who had nothing to do with Gregory's fraud or my firing would lose their jobs. The company that had been my professional home for 6 years would cease to exist. Could I live with that? I called my father, a retired engineer who had always given me straightforward advice. "Dad," I said, "if you could choose between a guaranteed good job and a risky dream that might hurt other people, what would you do?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Honey, you did not create the risk. You did not make the choices that put other people's jobs in danger. Hartwell Management did that. Your only choice now is whether you are going to sacrifice your future to delay consequences they earned. And sweetheart, that is not noble. That is just letting them hurt you twice." He was right. I knew he was right. I texted Douglas, "Let's talk details." Tuesday morning, 13 days after my termination, I met with all 15 clients via video conference. Douglas had organized it, sending encrypted meeting links and confidentiality agreements. This was not just a business discussion. This was the formation of something entirely new. I had spent the previous 48 hours working with Jessica and a business consultant she recommended. We mapped out structure, legal requirements, regulatory compliance, and financial projections. Starting an independent wealth management firm was complex, expensive, and risky. But with $590 million in committed assets and 15 clients who had already proven their loyalty, the risk was manageable. The video call lasted 3 hours. We discussed fee structures, service expectations, team composition, and growth strategy. But more than logistics, we talked about philosophy. "I want to build something different," I told them. "Not just a company that manages money, but a partnership where success is truly shared. Lower base fees, performance bonuses tied to actual returns, complete transparency, and equity stakes for long-term clients. When you win, I win. When you lose, I lose. Patricia Huang, whose family office managed $220 million through multiple advisors, leaned forward on her screen. That is what we wanted all along. Someone who treats this like a partnership instead of a transaction. James Whitmore added, "The traditional model is broken. Advisors profit whether clients succeed or fail. That misalignment is why trust is so hard to build in this industry. We structured something revolutionary. Each client would receive a small equity stake in the firm after 3 years of partnership. Fee structures would scale down as assets grew, incentivizing long-term relationships over short-term gains. Performance bonuses would be tied to benchmarks that clients helped establish, ensuring alignment of interests. By the end of the call, we had verbal agreements from all 15 clients. Total committed assets, $590 million. Contract terms, minimum 5 years, with renewal options based on mutual satisfaction. Douglas spoke last. "Mabel, you need to name this company. It represents you. Make it mean something." I had been thinking about this since his first offer. The name needed to reflect the foundation we were building. Relationships over transactions. Trust over contracts. People over institutions. Pemberton Advisory Group, I said, because Douglas was the first client who believed in me enough to fight for me. Because his loyalty saved me when my employer betrayed me. Because starting with gratitude feels right. Douglas' eyes got suspiciously wet on the screen. He cleared his throat. "I am honored. And now I am definitely invested in making this succeed." Over the next week, I assembled the operational framework. Jessica's firm handled legal incorporation and regulatory filings. The business consultant connected me with compliance experts who understood SEC requirements. I hired an accounting firm to establish proper financial controls and reporting. Tyler and the 7 other employees who had quit Hartwell became my founding team. Tyler as Chief Operating Officer, Rachel heading Client Services, Marcus running Analytics, Jennifer managing Compliance. 4 others filling essential roles in operations, technology, communications, and administration. We rented office space in downtown Denver, 1,200 square feet, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Nothing like Hartwell's cold corporate aesthetic. Our space felt warm, open, collaborative. We bought standing desks, comfortable chairs, and real plants instead of fake ones. Small details that signaled respect for the people doing the work. The team worked brutal hours, 18-hour days fueled by coffee and purpose. We were not just building a company. We were proving that integrity and competence could succeed outside traditional corporate structures. 15 days after my termination, exactly 2 weeks, all 15 clients finalized their withdrawals from Hartwell. Not partial moves, complete exits. Every single dollar transferred to temporary holding accounts while Pemberton Advisory Group completed regulatory approval. Sarah texted from inside Hartwell. "You should see it here. Ghost town. Half the staff already left. Remaining people updating resumes. Amanda barely leaves her office. Gregory is suspended pending criminal investigation. Stock down 31% this week. Board meeting scheduled for Friday. Rumor is they are discussing Chapter 11 bankruptcy." That last sentence hit me hard. Bankruptcy meant total collapse. It meant everyone who still worked there would lose jobs, retirement accounts, health care, people who had nothing to do with what happened to me. I called Amanda one last time, not because I wanted to gloat, because I needed her to understand something. "Amanda," I said when she answered, "I need you to know I did not want this. I never wanted Hartwell to collapse. I just wanted to be valued for the work I did." There was a long pause. Then Amanda said, her voice hollow, "I know. I believe you. But it does not matter anymore. The damage is done. We cannot recover from losing 42% of our asset base in 2 weeks. The board is voting Friday on bankruptcy filing. What will you do?" She laughed bitterly. "Start over, I suppose. If anyone will hire me after this. She paused. Mabel, I owe you an apology that matters, not a corporate apology to limit liability. A real one. I failed you. I failed basic leadership. I chose institutional comfort over individual justice, and I destroyed people's careers, including my own, because of it. I am sorry. Truly sorry. It is too late to matter, but I needed to say it. It does matter, I said quietly. Thank you. After hanging up, I sat in our new office, surrounded by boxes of supplies and half-assembled furniture. In 2 weeks, I had gone from fired and humiliated to founder of my own firm with more assets under management than most advisors see in a career. But the cost was visible across town in the empty offices of a collapsing company. Rachel knocked on my doorframe. We just got confirmation. SEC approved our registration. We are officially licensed to operate. Pemberton Advisory Group is live. Tyler appeared behind her, grinning. And I just got word from Douglas. All 15 clients completed their transfers. $590 million, officially under our management as of 4 p.m. today. The team erupted in cheers. Jennifer popped a bottle of champagne we had been saving. Someone turned on music. For 10 minutes, we celebrated the impossible thing we had accomplished. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. But something made me answer. Miss Carson, this is David Wu from Redwood Partners. We are a venture capital firm specializing in financial services innovation. We have been following your story and your approach to client relationships. We would like to discuss a potential investment in Pemberton Advisory Group. Would you be open to a meeting? I looked around at my team, celebrating in our brand new office, at the city view stretching before us, at the future we were building from scratch. Yes, I said. I would be very interested in talking. 3 weeks after my termination, Pemberton Advisory Group officially opened for business. We held a small launch event, inviting all 15 founding clients, their families, and a handful of carefully selected press. Nothing flashy, just a gathering in our new office to mark the beginning of something different. Douglas gave a toast. 6 months ago, Mabel approached me with an idea. What if wealth management was built on actual relationships instead of corporate contracts? What if advisors succeeded when clients succeeded, instead of profiting regardless of performance? What if trust was not just a marketing word but a business model? He raised his glass. Today, we find out if those ideas can work. I believe they will, because I have never met anyone who understands that relationships are the real asset in this industry. The press coverage was overwhelmingly positive. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature. From fired employee to founder. The new model for wealth management. Forbes published a profile emphasizing the revolutionary fee structure and equity sharing model. Bloomberg interviewed 3 clients who praised the transparency and alignment of interests. But more meaningful than press was the response from the industry itself. Other wealth managers started reaching out, asking questions about our structure. Some were curious, others defensive. A few were genuinely interested in whether our model could scale beyond our founding clients. The answer came faster than expected. Within the first month, 5 new clients approached us. Not cold prospects. Referrals from our founding 15, people in their networks who had heard about our approach and wanted in. Each was managing between $30 and $90 million. Each had similar frustrations with traditional wealth management. We vetted them carefully. Not just financial vetting, but cultural fit. Did they understand our model? Did they value relationships over transactions? Were they willing to be patient with a young firm still finding its footing? We accepted 3. The other 2 we politely declined, recognizing they wanted results we could not promise and speed we could not deliver. Saying no felt powerful. We were building something specific, not just chasing growth. By month 2, David Wu and his partners at Redwood Partners completed their due diligence. They saw our structure, our client retention, our team cohesion, and our growth trajectory. They offered to invest. The valuation stunned me. $50 million. For a company that had existed for 2 months. But Redwood understood what traditional metrics missed. Our value was not just assets under management. It was the loyalty of clients who had left established firms to follow one person. It was a team that had quit stable jobs to build something based on trust. It was a model that aligned interests in ways the industry had forgotten was possible. The terms were favorable. Redwood would get 20% equity in exchange for capital to help us scale. I would retain 60%. My team would split 20%, with vesting schedules tied to continued employment. When Tyler saw his equity package, the number that made him a millionaire on paper, he cried. "I believed in you," he said. "I never imagined this." "Neither did I admitted. "But here we are." The capital from Redwood let us expand. We moved to a larger office, hired 4 more employees, including a former SEC compliance officer who had retired early but was intrigued by our approach. We invested in technology that gave clients real-time access to their portfolios with complete transparency into fees, performance, and decision-making processes. More referrals came. By month 3, we were managing $800 million, well beyond our initial 15 clients. Growth that would have taken years happened in weeks, driven entirely by word of mouth and client satisfaction. Then, 23 days after my termination, the news I had been expecting arrived. Hartwell Financial Services filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company that had existed for 50 years, that had employed over 400 people, that had managed billions in assets, collapsed in under a month. I read the bankruptcy filing in our conference room, surrounded by my team. The document detailed everything: the client exodus, the embezzlement scandal, the failed restructuring attempts, the board's decision that recovery was impossible. Gregory Thornton faced criminal charges: embezzlement, fraud, falsifying records. The U.S. attorney was pursuing a maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison. Amanda Winters had resigned, her reputation destroyed. She released a statement taking full responsibility for promoting Gregory despite warnings, for not protecting employees who raised concerns, for prioritizing institutional image over individual justice. I should have felt vindication. I should have felt satisfaction at watching the people who wronged me face consequences. Instead, I just felt sad. Sad for the 318 employees who lost jobs. Sad for the clients who had trusted Hartwell and now had to rebuild relationships elsewhere. Sad that something built over decades was destroyed because leadership chose convenience over integrity. Rachel noticed my expression. "This is not your fault," she said quietly. "You gave them chances. They chose not to take them." "I know," I replied. "But knowing intellectually and feeling emotionally are different things." That evening, after everyone left, I sat alone in my office, looking at the city lights. My phone buzzed, a text from Amanda Winters. "I saw the news about your valuation, $50 million. I am genuinely happy for you. You deserved this success, and you built it the right way. I am consulting now, small firms, teaching them what I learned too late. It does not pay much, but it is honest work. I wanted you to know that watching you succeed has been the most painful and most valuable lesson of my career. Thank you for not destroying me in the press when you easily could have. That grace mattered more than you know." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Thank you for saying that. I hope your next chapter brings you peace." 6 months after that terrible Tuesday morning when security escorted me out of Hartwell, Pemberton Advisory Group was profiled in Harvard Business Review. The article examined our model as a case study in relationship-based business structures. Business schools requested permission to teach it. Other industries asked if our approach could translate beyond wealth management. We had proven something important, that loyalty flows both ways. That when you treat relationships as the real asset, when you align incentives honestly, when you choose integrity over convenience, people respond. Clients, employees, partners, everyone. But more than business success, I had learned something personal. For 6 years, I had defined my worth through external validation. Job titles, salaries, praise from supervisors. When that was taken away in one humiliating morning, I thought I had lost everything. What I actually lost was the illusion that my value came from someone else's judgment. My worth was intrinsic, built through competence, relationships, integrity, and the courage to bet on myself when no one else would. Gregory tried to steal credit for my work. Hartwell tried to erase my contributions. But the people who actually mattered, the clients I served and the team I built, they knew the truth. And truth, I discovered, is more powerful than any corporate structure. 9 months after my termination, I was invited to speak at the National Wealth Management Conference in Chicago, the same city where Gregory had committed his first frauds, the same industry that had watched my story unfold in real time. I stood backstage, nervous in a way I had not felt since my first client presentation years ago. The conference organizers told me the room was packed. Over 800 wealth managers, financial advisors, and industry executives waiting to hear from the woman who had, as one headline put it, disrupted wealth management by getting fired. The moderator introduced me. I walked onto the stage to sustained applause. Some genuine, some polite, some probably skeptical. I told them my story. Not the sanitized version, but the real one. The humiliation of being fired, the terror of uncertainty, the anger at betrayal, the overwhelming gratitude when clients chose me over institutional comfort, the guilt when Hartwell collapsed, the responsibility of building something that mattered. But then I shifted to the lesson I had traveled here to share. 9 months ago, I said, I thought my career was defined by my employer. My worth came from my job title, my salary, my office location. When I lost those external markers, I panicked. Because if I was not a senior VP at Hartwell Financial Services, who was I? I paused, looking out at the audience. The answer surprised me. I was exactly who I had always been. Someone who kept promises. Someone who built genuine relationships. Someone who worked with integrity, even when it was inconvenient. Losing my job did not change those qualities. It just forced me to recognize they were mine, not gifts from my employer. I clicked to the next slide. A photo of our team at Pemberton Advisory Group, smiling in our office. We are taught to be loyal to institutions, to companies, to titles, to structures. But institutions are not loyal back. They are loyal to profitability, to shareholders, to quarterly results. There is nothing wrong with that. It is how businesses work. But when we confuse institutional needs with personal worth, we give away our power. Another slide. The faces of my 15 founding clients. These people did not follow Hartwell. They followed me. Not because I was special or irreplaceable, but because I had spent years proving that I valued the relationship more than the transaction. When choosing between institutional convenience and personal integrity, I chose integrity every single time, even when it cost me. I looked directly at the audience. Here is what I learned, and what I want you to understand. Your value is not determined by who employs you. It is determined by the quality of work you do, the relationships you build, and the integrity you maintain. Those things belong to you. They cannot be taken away by a bad boss, a corporate restructuring, or even wrongful termination. When you know your worth, really know it deep in your bones, you become unbreakable, not because nothing can hurt you. Pain is inevitable, but because you understand that your worth exists independent of external validation. You stop asking permission to be excellent. You stop waiting for someone else to recognize your value. You just do the work, build the relationships, and trust that the right people will notice. Final slide. Our company values, printed simply: relationships over transactions, truth over comfort, competence over politics, people over institutions. Getting fired was the worst and best thing that ever happened to me. Worst because it was humiliating, terrifying, and unjust. Best because it forced me to stop depending on external validation and start trusting my own worth. I paused, then delivered my closing thought. Whatever happens in your career, whoever employs you or fires you or promotes you or overlooks you, remember this: your value is yours. It is built through thousands of small choices to do excellent work, to treat people well, to maintain integrity when it would be easier to cut corners. Those choices accumulate into a reputation that transcends any single job. And when you finally understand that your worth is not given to you by employers but created by you through your actions, you stop being an employee and start being a professional who chooses where to invest your talents. That shift changes everything. The applause started slowly, then built. A standing ovation from an audience of people who understood exactly what I meant, because many had lived versions of the same story. After the speech, dozens of people approached me. Some shared their own stories of betrayal and rebuilding. Others asked advice about starting independent practices. A few admitted they were currently in situations similar to where I had been 9 months ago, undervalued, overlooked, with bosses taking credit for their work. What should I do? They asked. Document everything, I told them. Build relationships independent of your employer. Know your actual value in the market. Prepare for the possibility that loyalty you give will not be returned. And when the moment comes, be ready to bet on yourself. One young woman, maybe 25 years old, approached with tears in her eyes. I got fired 3 weeks ago, escorted out by security just like you. I thought my career was over. Seeing you here, speaking at this conference, managing hundreds of millions, it gives me hope. I took her hands. It gets better, I promise. The humiliation fades. The opportunities appear. The people who matter recognize your worth. But you have to believe in yourself first, even when no one else does, especially when no one else does. That night, back in my hotel room, I reflected on the journey. From that Tuesday morning when Gregory screamed at me across a conference table to this evening when 800 industry professionals gave me a standing ovation. 9 months. That was all it took for complete transformation. But transformation required something most people never manage: the willingness to lose everything and rebuild from nothing. I thought about Amanda Winters, now consulting with small firms, teaching the lessons she learned too late. She had sent me a text after seeing I was speaking at the conference. Proud of you, Mabel. You are teaching an entire industry what real leadership looks like. I thought about Gregory Thornton, serving his sentence in federal prison. His fraud had destroyed lives, including his own. The man who tried to steal credit for my work ended up with nothing but a criminal record and shattered reputation. I thought about my team at Pemberton Advisory Group: Tyler, Rachel, Marcus, Jennifer, and the others who had bet their careers on me when I was just a fired employee with an uncertain future. We had built something extraordinary together. Not just a successful company, but a culture where people felt valued and relationships mattered. Most of all, I thought about the 15 clients who had fought for me, who had threatened to leave billion-dollar institutions just to keep working with one person, who had proven that in a world of contracts and quarterly reports, relationships still mattered most. My phone buzzed. Text from Douglas. Saw video of your speech, making it required viewing for my entire team. The lesson about knowing your worth is something everyone needs to hear. Thank you for having the courage to live it publicly. I smiled and typed back. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove it. 9 months ago, I thought getting fired meant failure. I thought losing my job meant losing my identity and my future. What I actually lost was the comfortable lie that my worth came from external validation. What I gained was the uncomfortable truth that I had always been valuable. I just needed to lose everything to see it clearly. And that truth changed not just my career, but my entire understanding of what it means to be successful. Success is not about titles or salaries or corner offices. It is not about climbing corporate ladders or impressing executives or playing political games. Success is knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. It is building relationships based on genuine trust. It is choosing integrity when convenience tempts you to compromise. It is betting on yourself when everyone else has walked away. I took $590 million with me when I left Hartwell, but what I really took was something far more valuable: the knowledge that my worth belongs to me, built by me, and cannot be taken by anyone who does not deserve to hold it. That lesson was worth more than any job, any title, any salary. Because once you truly understand your own value, you become unstoppable. Not because you cannot be hurt, but because you know that hurt does not define you. Your response to hurt defines you, and I chose to respond by building something better. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between staying in a comfortable but toxic situation or betting on yourself in uncertainty? What did you choose, and what happened? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think differently about loyalty, worth, or career choices, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their way through. And share this with someone who might need the reminder that their value is not determined by who employs them, but by who they choose to be. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gave you something valuable, whether that is hope, courage, perspective, or just the reminder that setbacks can become setups for something better. Your worth is yours. Know it, own it, protect it, and never let anyone convince you otherwise.